Hello, Deep Six wrestling fans and Falcor from the Never Ending Story. This is Glorious or Rotten Rewind, and this episode is going to focus on WrestleMania VII, which took place on March 24th, 1991, from the Los Angeles Sports Arena. Wow, what a great name for a sports arena. Very inventive, Los Angeles, which obviously took place in Los Angeles, California. This was a really patriotic themed WrestleMania. There was just American flags everywhere, and yeah, it was a little bit weird. And Willie Nelson came out to sing "America the Beautiful," and it was fine, but it was a little weird. I mean, he sang it all right. It just was a little weird choice, I think. But yeah, I guess it was all right. USA. And yes, America. The first match of the night was the Rockers versus the random team of Haku and the Barbarian with Bobby the Brain Heenan. A random pairing, but whatever. And Hacksaw Jim Duggan was on guest commentary because Heenan was doing commentary throughout the night. And Duggan came out dressed in like an Uncle Sam costume, pretty much. Yeah, that happened. But you know what? Duggan was actually pretty solid on commentary here, so I didn't mind it at all. This was pretty solid, but the Rockers are really good. But there were some awkward spots. I just think there wasn't great chemistry between the two teams. There was still some good stuff, but a little awkward for me. And I feel like the heels controlled the match a little too much. It was a little bit too slow of a pace, especially for a Rockers match. And, the Rockers actually get the win here with Michaels hitting a diving crossbody on Haku and getting the pin. And, yeah, that's a good way to start WrestleMania. Solid match, but nothing special. Could have been better. Next up, we have Dino Bravo with Jimmy Hart. And, God, I am sick of seeing Dino Bravo at this point. Versus Kerry Von Erich, the Texas Tornado. And this guy just looks like the Ultimate Warrior, like a clone of the Ultimate Warrior, but not wearing face paint. Like I know that Von Erichs are a famous wrestling family, but he just looks exactly like Warrior, pretty much. He's even got the tassels on his gear and stuff. What are you doing? Change him. I don't know. Make him cut his hair, or at least make him do something that makes him not look like the Warrior, especially since Warrior's one of your top stars. Anyway, this wasn't much of a match. It was very short, and Tornado wins with a spinning discus punch and gets the pin, and this wasn't good. So I'd give this a rotten. There was really nothing to it, and I'm really sick of seeing Dino Bravo. I can't wait till he's not in the picture anymore at WrestleManias. Next up, we have the Warlord with Slick as his manager versus Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog. And he's back. I guess he was out of the company for a while. He's back. He's got the braids and stuff. It's a pretty iconic look for him. And you know what? This was actually, it was a fairly long match, but it was just forgettable. I don't really even. There wasn't that much that I even remember that happened in this match. It wasn't bad. It just was very unremarkable. But I have to say, Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon have incredible chemistry together on commentary. Really fun stuff they have together. And this match just happened, just kind of there. Davey Boy wins with a running power slam. I mean, the crowd was really over. He was really over with the crowd. They loved him, but it was just kind of there. Next up, we have the WWF Tag Team Championship match between champions, the Hart Foundation, and the challengers, the Nasty Boys, Brian Knobbs and Jerry Sags, with Jimmy Hart. And Macaulay Culkin is here. He's in the crowd, and he looks really excited. And man, Bret Hart is super over. And you could just tell he's going to be a huge star in the next few years because the crowd just loves him. You know what? I have looked up the match ratings for all of these just to see what Meltzer thought and to see how it compared with my opinion, and he gave this 3.5 stars. This was not a 3.5 star match. It started out pretty good, and then the middle was just really slow. Lots of rest holds, and it wasn't bad at all. It just wasn't really that great. It was okay. Man, Meltzer and I'd love to have some words with Meltzer. I don't think we'd see eye to eye. But anyway, obviously it's a Jimmy Hart match, and there's the megaphone spot. And yeah, you know what? There were actually 2 megaphone spots in this match, because there was one where I don't even remember. This match was also pretty forgettable. I know there were 2 megaphone spots. The finish came when one of the Nasty Boys hit Anvil with the megaphone and pinned him while the ref was distracted. I don't know how these refs get distracted so easily, but they do. They're never paying attention. They should just get whole new refs. Fire them, because they're never paying attention. Hits them, pins them, win the tag team titles, and yeah, that happened. The match was pretty solid, but it could have been a lot better. It really was hurt by the middle portion with all those rest holds. That just really kills the match for me. Alright, next up we had Jake the Snake Roberts versus Rick the Model Martel in a blindfold match. Yup, a blindfold match. How stupid does that sound? Apparently Jake got blinded at some point a few weeks or months earlier when Martel sprayed his arrogance fragrance in Jake's eyes. So that's where this whole thing came from. They both had to be blindfolded for this match. And shockingly, this was actually pretty fun. Up to this point on the card, this was my best match of the night. I mean, I'm not saying it was great, but it was entertaining. It was enjoyable to watch. And the crowd was like on fire for it. The wrestlers were just kind of like walking around the ring like aimlessly and pointing, and the crowd would just go nuts when they pointed at the right guy. Especially when Jake would point at Model. Oh my God, the crowd was like nuts for that. And there were a couple fun spots where they would like bump into each other and then like hit a little bit of offense, then like wander away, or when someone would run into the ref and like grab the ref and then realize it was the ref and be like, oh, sorry. Rick really worked hard in this match too. He did some really funny stuff. But Jake gets the win when he eventually runs into Rick and hits the DDT for the pin, and he puts Damien on him after the match, and feel good stuff. Pretty good match for what it was. I enjoyed it. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. Jimmy Superfly Snuka versus The Undertaker. Anyway, with Paul Bearer. And here we go. This is the beginning of the streak. Undertaker shows up. He's got his, he actually had his classic music and everything. I thought he would, I don't know. I didn't think he'd have that kind of music. It's a little bit updated now, obviously, but it was the same song, so that's cool. But he had pretty much the same song throughout most of his run. And he had such a presence. Even here, he looked like a star already. And he was only like 20, or early 20s, mid 20s, maybe at this point. So it was obvious he was going to be a huge star going forward. And this wasn't too much of a match, but it was a pretty good showcase for The Undertaker. Taker, of course, wins with the Tombstone Pile Driver, and the legend begins, baby! Next up, we had the Ultimate Warrior versus Macho King Randy Savage with Sensational Queen Sherry in a retirement match. The loser has to retire. There's really good storytelling here, actually. Warrior did not sprint out to the ring. He actually took this really seriously and acted like it was a big, heavy stipulation, because it was. Miss Elizabeth was shown in the crowd, and she was like really concerned the whole time, because that's like her main face, is looking really concerned or being happy or sad. She's got 3 emotions. But, it was a good story to tell because, if it's going to be Macho's last match, she's got to be there. And this really, really, honestly worked really well. And they worked to Warrior strengths perfectly. Sherry was involved a lot, especially in the early portion of the match. And that's a great thing because Sherry is fantastic. Her facials are great. Her selling is great. Everything she does is amazing. So I was really happy to see her involved in this a lot. At one point, Macho hits 5 consecutive diving elbow drops, and Ultimate Warrior kicks out. Like, it's not like he hit one and he kicked out, hit one and kicked out. He hit all of them in a row and then pinned them, and he still kicked out. I think that's a little excessive. I think one or two, at most, would have been I think one would have gotten the impact across that, oh, he kicked out of his finisher. But 5, that kind of like kills the move. But whatever. There was a really strong finishing sequence to this with a lot of false finishes and really good false finishes at that too. And of course, Macho Man Randy Savage takes the loss, and he's just flung around the ring by Warrior at the end. He actually ends up being sent to the barricade at one point too. Like, I think it was like neck or face first, and then Warrior hits him with a couple shoulder blocks and then just steps on his chest for the pin. 1, 2, 3, and yeah, Warrior gets the win here. And then after the match, Sherry like brutally attacks Macho, and then Elizabeth comes and makes the save, and it's such a nice like feel good moment for Macho. Obviously, this is not his last match ever. He's gonna go on and wrestle more, and he's gonna go to WCW, and then But anyway, they just had this really nice moment in the ring where they hugged, and then he lifted Elizabeth up on his shoulder, and then it was a good feel good moment. Absolutely, this match, this moment gets a glorious for me. This is going to be a hard match to top for this show. This match was definitely one of the better WrestleMania matches of all time I've seen so far. Next, we had Demolition, Smash, and Crush. I guess Axe had left for New Japan. Early 91, late 1990, something like that. So they got Crush to replace him. They were with Mr. Fuji, and they're back as heels again. Versus Tenryu and Katao. This wasn't really a long match at all, but the action was pretty solid for what it was. Tenryu ends up pinning Smash with a power bomb, and the baby faces get the win. It was decent action for what it was, but it was short, so it was okay. Nothing special at all. Very forgettable. Next up, we have the Intercontinental Championship match between champion Mr. Perfect with Bobby Heenan and his challenger, the Big Boss Man. Boss Man looks really good here. He's a lot skinnier, and man, he's really quick, really agile. He looks fantastic. And we have Lord Alfred Hayes on guest commentary because Heenan is, of course, at ringside. It's been a while since we've seen Lord Alfred, and he's better here, I guess, than he has been. I guess he's more comfortable, but he's got such a weird voice. He's such an odd person to even have in wrestling. Just very strange. There's a lot of fun stuff that went on early in this match, actually. You just see how quick, how agile Boss Man is. And some of the moves he hits you would not expect from someone his size. Really cool. Unfortunately, this match kind of broke down at the end. Andre came out randomly and actually grabbed the IC title, and Perfect went to get it back from him. The ref was distracted by something, because the ref's always distracted, and Andre hit Perfect with the title. Eventually, Boss Man went for the pin, and Perfect kicks out. And then immediately after, Haku and the Barbarian hit the ring and just beat down Boss Man. Why didn't they come and break up the pin before? I think that would have been more effective if he didn't kick out and they broke up the pin before it was a 3. but whatever. And then, the baby faces clear out the heels, and Boss Man celebrates, even though he didn't win the title. I really wish baby faces wouldn't celebrate when they didn't win title matches. Even if it's a DQ win, they didn't win the title, so don't celebrate. Look at least somewhat mad, but whatever. I mean, the match was really fun, but the finish takes it down for me. It would, if with a clean finish, it would have been up there, but it was good, but just off, just misses the mark for me. Next, we had Earthquake with Jimmy Hart versus Greg the Hammer Valentine. And, Valentine got some offense in early, but this was all about Earthquake. Earthquake wins with a running splash in about 2 or 3 minutes and squashes the Hammer. And it's such a shame for Greg Valentine. He was really instrumental in the early years of WrestleMania. And as time went on, he kind of got less and less important. This was okay for what it was. I don't mind this because they're really building Earthquake, I guess. Next, we have the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal, versus Power and Glory with Slick. That's Hercules and Paul Roma. And this is another squash match, 2 in a row. That's really weird. Legion of Doom wins with the Doomsday Device. I think it was on Roma. I don't even know. The match was over so quick, I barely even paid attention. I understand using a squash with these guys to get them over, but why is this on WrestleMania? You know what? The Earthquake thing too. Why is it on WrestleMania? I don't understand. Just for the fact that it's 2 in a row, I'm going to give this a rotten. There's no business having 2 consecutive squash matches, especially at WrestleMania. Next up, we have the Million Dollar Man, Ted DiBiase, versus Virgil with Rowdy Roddy Piper in his corner. I guess the story here was that Virgil is sick and tired of Ted DiBiase bossing him around for all these years, and finally had enough. And I guess Piper was the one encouraging him to stand up for himself. And, this was actually pretty fun. Virgil's style was really weird. He was just kind of he was boxing in the beginning of the match. But they did some fun stuff. It was a good back and forth match, really good storytelling, well paced. Virgil actually gets the win by countout when Piper distracts DiBiase on the outside. And then after the match, DiBiase chokes out Virgil, and then Piper gets in the ring and attacks DiBiase with his crutch to make the save. And then out of nowhere comes Sherry, who takes the crutch and beats up Piper, and then the heels beat down Piper and injure his leg. Apparently he was in a motorcycle accident. I don't know if that was real or not before this. And then they leave while he's really beaten down, and then Virgil helps Piper to his feet, and they walk out. This was a pretty fun segment overall. Nothing special, but it was a good moment. I enjoyed it for what it was. Next up, we had the Mountie with Jimmy Hart versus Tito Santana. And here we go, guys. Another squash match. 3 out of the last 4 matches are squash matches. What is this? The Mountie wins with a weird object, a cattle prod or something. He just puts it in Tito's ribs randomly, and then pins him. Well, somehow the ref doesn't see it. I don't know. Of course. And really, another squash, definitely a rock. What are they doing, man? At least spread them out. Come on. Finally, the main event, the WWF Championship match between champion Sergeant Slaughter with General Adnan versus Hulk Hogan. And this was the angle where Slaughter was a Gulf War Iraqi sympathizer, which is just in poor taste. The whole angle, I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. Not a good idea. Very much in poor taste. I don't know, man. And yeah, Hogan actually kind of has control of this match for a lot of the early portion. Usually it's kind of back and forth with a Hogan match, especially, but he really was like destroying Slaughter early on. And I have to say, both of these guys, should have just given up on their hair and shaved it at this point. But here we are, 28 years later, and both guys have yet to give up. They both have not shaved their heads. Way to persist, I guess? I don't know. They should have just given up, but they didn't. And you know what? This was actually better than I expected, to be honest. Finally, Slaughter gets control of the match. And then he actually starts using a steel chair right in front of the ref, and the ref just doesn't care. He just lets him do it. They kept talking about Slaughter having different rules, so maybe the storyline was him allowing him to use objects and stuff, him somehow being able to make his own rules. But I don't know. I don't know what that was. They didn't really explain it. Hulk gets busted open at one point. There's just an image of him in the camel clutch with a busted open, bloody face. And it's a really cool looking image, you know. It's just, you just see it and it's like, wow, this is actually looks pretty special. And there was another point where he was sitting in the Boston Crab, like literally right next to the rope. And even Regis Philbin, who was on commentary, was like, why doesn't he just grab the rope? And then maybe like 10 seconds later, he finally does. I don't understand why he wasn't just grabbing the rope that whole time. But whatever. Stupid logic sometimes. But yeah, as I said, this was actually a lot more fun than I expected it to be. It was pretty good. Hogan wins, of course, with the leg drop and takes the title and defeats the evil Iraqi sympathizer. USA! USA! You know what? This was fun. I would give this match a glorious. It definitely exceeded my expectations. I knew this was the main event coming to the show, and I was kind of like, it doesn't sound too good. The angle's stupid, whatever, but it definitely went above my expectations. And as a whole, a lot of the show was very forgettable, but there were some good things too. It's probably just, it's like a middle of the road show, I think. Ups and downs, of course, but it's about just as many ups as downs, right in the middle. So overall, it was WrestleMania. It was okay. Very solid, very much in the middle. If you enjoy what you are seeing, make sure to like, make sure to comment, make sure to hit that subscribe. Please follow us on Twitter at Deep Six Wrestling. Follow us on Facebook at Deep Six Wrestling. You can't follow people on Facebook, but you can like on Facebook at Deep Six Wrestling. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a glorious day.